Okay, so we're talking about fun today. All right, I think you've already had a little fun with your warm-up, with your little jokes, okay? So our goal today is to explore some strategies for rekindling your love of teaching. And guys, this is not anything new. These are things that you already know. Maybe you forgot, maybe you haven't had time to think about them because I don't know if y'all knew we were still teaching in a pandemic. So what I've had to think about this year is what can I do to really enjoy myself at school? Because this year has been, I would say for all of us, I think you would agree, just as stressful as last year and the year before, if not more so in a few ways. So I really had to reevaluate how I'm teaching, why am I here, what keeps me here, those kinds of things. So just a couple of examples of my favorite lessons. Pass the paper is one of my favorite lessons. I actually stole that from Ann Kilborn. But we don't actually pass the paper, the students rotate. And so we put Chromebooks out for them with, like we're doing narrative writing now. So we put the Chromebook down and I give them a certain color sticky and a helper sheet. Say if you're at this table, you got a green sticky, you're looking at introductions. At this table, you've got a blue sticky, you're looking at body paragraphs. At this table, you're looking at whatever. And so the kids rotate through and they write something great on each sticky and then something that person could do better on their paper. And so by the end of the day, the person that gets their computer back has feedback from 6 or 7 people, but also those kids get to walk around, which we all know they love to walk around, and they get to, feel like their viewpoint's valuable. My other favorite lesson is the point of view story, and I tell a little story about my dog Tinkerbell getting lost. And I tell it to the class, and then I have one student tell it back to me, and then I have another student tell it to the class, and that's how we teach point of view. First person, second person, and then third person point of view. And they love it because it's about a dog, So what about you? So I want you to take a moment. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds of think time. I want you to think about the most fun lesson that you have in your repertoire. Maybe you haven't taught it this year, maybe you haven't taught it since the pandemic started. 10 seconds of think time. Okay, now, Becky, you're partner number 1, you're partner number 2. Kim, you're partner number 1, Jessica, you're partner number 2, Elisa, you're the listening partner. Okay, now I want you guys to take about 30-45 seconds each. Start with partner number 1. I want you to tell them what your most fun lesson to teach is. Partner 2, you're going to reciprocate. Okay? Ready? Go.
Here's some CBD life cycle of plants, and I have.
I would have given you a partner, but I thought you were on the phone.
Kids got to come up with.
I'm on hold. I'm
Okay.
trying to find daycare now.
For me, when we're talking about the global influence of China on economics, we do a class scavenger hunt where they find everything they can in my classroom that was made in China. And it becomes a massive mess, free-for-all mess in my room, but they have fun picking up things that were made in China and realizing almost everything. We've done the same thing with the alphabet game. This is like an icebreaker where you have to find a thing in the class and then it's really easy. But the main China one was fun because they didn't realize everything in the room. And so basically,
All right, time's up. Okay, now, normally partner number 1 would redeliver this, but the listening partner is going to redeliver this. Partner number 1, Becky, and partner number 3, Elisa, I want you to tell me what partner number 2's favorite lesson to teach is. So what's Neely's favorite lesson to teach?
When they discover everything that's made from China that's in the classroom. They have a scavenger hunt in the classroom to determine everything that's made from China.
Yeah, cool. That's cool. So in a sentence or two, tell me what her favorite lesson is to teach.
So Jessica does a choice board where the students have different choices of activities to do in order to cover a topic.
Yeah, okay. So this is also a little introspective time. And I want you to really think about these things. So when in your career have you had the most fun teaching, okay? And was that due to peers? Was it due to students, materials, or your state of being? I had a teacher that I worked with, her most fun teaching was She had an oddball room in elementary school, so she had this huge room, and she loved that room because they had space to, and that was her most fun teaching, was in that classroom. So for her, it was a location. And so what we're thinking about today is, can we recreate this for ourselves? Now, here's a few strategies that you can use in your classroom. If you're just looking for some new fun strategies, you may already know these and just need to be reminded of them. So one way is to incorporate some mystery into your lessons. You can unveil a new lesson and give students a new clue each day up until the last day before the start of the lesson. I know that Harry Wong says that students like to know what's coming up, and that's why I have that calendar on my board, but this is just another way to inject some fun. So this is a great article. Refuse to be a boring teacher, 15 ways to have more fun. That's where I got the mystery idea. Some other ideas that I just needed to be reminded of were, that they have in this article, was to participate in projects. Not just to give them projects, but like if you give a choice board, sit down and be a part of that group and contribute to the final project. And I thought, wow, that would be really cool. Another one was to share your passions. I know a lot of us already do this. I feel like I have a lot of rapport with my kids because they know I'm a Georgia Bulldogs fan. And then the other one, and I thought this was great, was to try being a student. Now, we all know we can't do this with every class, okay? But we do occasionally have times and have classes where we could say, okay guys, I want you to plan on teaching the class on this day, and this is what you're gonna teach. And you take a seat and let them teach the class. I thought, how fun would that be? So you guys can check that article out. All right, we're gonna watch 2 minutes of this video, not the whole thing, but she has some important things to say here.
Hello, how are you guys this afternoon? Woo, excellent. When we laugh, we relax. When we relax, we learn. Humor is a gift. Humor provided me with a number of gifts in my life, but before I share those with you, I would like to tell you about the gifts that humor has for you. According to research at Loma Linda University in California, did you know that 1 minute of anger can weaken your immune system by 5 hours? On the other hand, 1 minute of laughter can strengthen your immune system by 24 hours. Humor helps us fight stress. Also, when we associate information with humor, we tend to remember that information longer. In my keynote, Relieving Work-Related Stress with Humor, one of the ingredients I include is a positive attitude. A positive attitude includes humor. I think that's so important. I put that as number 1 on the list. Let me ask you something. How many people here in the room consider themselves positive people? Positive people by a show of hands? Good, excellent. Now, I know some people have their hands down. Maybe they're shy, maybe they're skeptical. If you're skeptical, that's okay. There's comedians who tend to be skeptical, and that's cool. That gives them that skewed perspective that makes them funny. But consider this, according to research at the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands, positive people statistically live longer than negative people. How much longer? Up to 10 years longer. Now, how many positive people do we have in the room?
So to me, that was a pretty staggering statistic that positive people live 10 years more than other people. If you have time to watch this video, maybe while you're doing something else in your classroom, she's fairly funny, but she does have some good things to say. So here's what the research says, because y'all know I'm a super nerd loser, okay? So basically this Yale University researcher separated 94 business students into small groups, each with the same hypothetical task of allocating employee bonuses. Barsade secretly planted one student in each group to act out a different emotion: enthusiasm, hostility, serenity, or depression. When the infiltrator was enthusiastic, he smiled often, looked intently into people's eyes, and spoke rapidly. When he feigned depression, he spoke slowly, avoided eye contact, and slouched in his seat. So the researcher measured participants' moods before and after the exercise and found that students who caught the actor's positive emotions were perceived by others and by themselves as being more competent and cooperative. The positive groups also believed they were more collegial than those in the bad mood groups. But when the researcher asked the students what influenced their performance, they attributed it to their skills. People don't realize they're influenced by others' emotions, and the whole article is there if you'd like to read the research there. So I think all of you were in my presentation last year about emotions' effect on learning. And what we talked about was, like even when you think about your own middle school career, you don't really remember exactly what you learned in English. You don't remember exactly what you learned in math, but you do remember those connections that you had with people. And when you do remember specific lessons, they were usually emotionally charged lessons. This was a statement from that presentation, and this hit me so very hardly last year. It is literally neurobiologically impossible to think about things deeply or to remember things about which you've had no emotion. You don't remember things that you've had no emotional connection to, okay? So I want you guys to take a minute and I want you to talk at your table about what's the most emotionally charged lesson that you teach. I know for Tony it may include watching the movie The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, okay? But take about 30 seconds, 45 seconds and talk at your table about what's the most emotionally charged lesson that you teach. Go.
So in social studies, we have a lot of opportunities to dive into things that are emotionally charged. Students tend to respond most heavily, I would say, Holocaust lessons, and then when we talk about the Rwandan genocide, just the idea that neighbors can so quickly turn on neighbors and can lead to bloodbaths over seemingly nothing. And I think, especially last year with the January 6th kind of insurgency, students saw that and they were connecting the fact that what we see in history can easily happen here if we don't take steps to prevent it from occurring. So
about 5 more seconds.
So yeah, probably Holocaust, Rwandan genocide.
All right, guys, time's up. So one of the things we can think of is, can I apply this emotion to another lesson? Okay, this is just another strategy for your toolbox. Some of you already know this. You just need to, it's important sometimes when we get so busy with grades and with duties and, just the daily, everyday stuff. It's important to go back and think about what are some fun things that we can do in our classroom. So this is also a biggie. We're kind of shifting just a little bit to talk a little bit more about attitude and to talk about our attitudes. Think about how your attitude affects not only your students, but also your colleagues. And I think about this especially, I think my team would agree that my attitude is a lot better now than it was 3 years ago. Would you guys agree with that? Yeah. And so I really had to, over the last couple of years, especially with the pandemic, it has given me some time to go back and be reflective and to think about how does my attitude affect others. I actually had an experience when I taught elementary school. I had a teacher that I worked with, and she was Eeyore, okay? She was, everything was negative, everything made her mad, everything was horrible. Like, you just knew that what you said to her was gonna be, she was gonna take it negatively. She wasn't confrontational, everything was awful all the time for her. And it was not fun to work with her. And I feel like personally, I got to that spot a couple of years ago and I thought, my team's not enjoying being around me. What can I do to project a more positive attitude at work? And I think I've done better with that. So some more reflection for yourself. It's a very self-reflective presentation. Why did you start teaching? Some of you started teaching because you thought you were going to change the world, right? Some of you started teaching because you fell into this occupation, maybe through, like Elisa, this was not her original plan. She kind of fell into this occupation. But I think in the long term, we have to think about, what did we love when we did start teaching? But more importantly, why do we stay in this? Because it's not for the money, right? I think we can all agree we're not here for the money, right? So why are we staying in this profession? And what can we do to make this profession more enjoyable for ourselves? So there's two big things that you need to do for yourself, okay? The first one is to plug in, okay? Acknowledge the generation gap. Their world is relevant. Thank you, Dr. Neely, for helpers on this one. What could you learn about what students are doing and how could that impact how you teach? Like, can you use TikTok? Can you use Instagram? Can you use video games? On Monday, I listened to a podcast of, nerd podcast. And one of the things that we're gonna actually do in class, and I thought this was so cool, was after you read a novel, have the students create an app that doesn't exist, but it could be used. For example, Romeo and Juliet, a life detector. Like, is this person alive or not? And so the students are really thinking through these things, but using technology that's relevant to them. The other thing that I think it's so important for us to do is to pour in, to invest in yourself. What are you doing for your professional development? How are you learning new things to invigorate your teaching? If you're not following other educators on Twitter, you need to be. You can listen to podcasts as you commute. It is so important to deliberately take that time to pour into yourself. Yes, we get busy doing other things, but y'all, it's a pandemic. We still have a little grace, okay? So here's a list of resources, and this will be out there provided for you on the dashboard. Some different things. I highly encourage you to take some time just to look at those different things. So there's some podcasts up there, there's some blogs, there's some good stuff. Oh, wait a minute. So you're saying I need to do more stuff? Absolutely not. I'm saying you need to prioritize, okay? What can you move down the list? And we've talked about this as a staff, like moving those lesson plans down the list. You have your lesson plans, but what else can you move down that list? Because in the end, you need to be happy in your job. You need to have some fun. What are you gonna do for yourself to get there? So don't be afraid to try something new, okay? We're still living in a pandemic, if I haven't said that before. So give yourself some grace. Have a little fun with your teaching this year. You'll enjoy your year so much better, okay? That's it for the presentation. I hope that this was valuable to you. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I will ask that you give me some feedback, okay? I want this to be a great presentation. And so I want you to be honest with your feedback, okay? It's not taking your email addresses. It's completely anonymous. I promise. I know we tell the kids that, but for real. But it gives me some good feedback, and hopefully this was a little introspective for you and not too pep talky. I hope it was okay.